From Los Angeles, it's the Tom Leykis Show.
Thank you, Jesus!
And now, here he is, Tom Leykis.
Thank you for tuning in to the Tom Leykis Show. This is where America gets together to talk about the issues you really care about. It's a different kind of a radio talk program. We're the radio talk show that is not hosted by a right-wing wacko or a convicted felon. No! I am your host. Write down our toll-free telephone number. You're going to need it. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being part of our program. Here we are together again on the radio. This story from Southampton, Long Island. From the Hamptons. A woman from Merrick, Long Island, as they say, is under arrest, charged with drunken driving after she hit a street sign in Southampton. Pretty normal story, especially for the Hamptons. But there's more. Police said the woman's 14-year-old daughter and a teenage friend were in the car. And they were pleading with Carolyn Magliochetti, 47, to stop the car. Southampton police said the woman hit the sign on Noyac Road between Sag Harbor and North Sea on Sunday evening, causing minor damage to the front of her vehicle. Magliochetti let the two girls out of the car, and then she drove away. So now it's like a hit and run. The teenagers telephoned police and gave them Magliochetti's name and a description of her car. At around 6:40 p.m., an officer arrested Magliochetti as she headed west on Sunrise Highway in East Quogue, Long Island. She was charged with DWI, which is what they call DUI back there. Driving while intoxicated as opposed to driving under the influence, or DUI. She was charged with DWI, reckless endangerment, and 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. Police said the 2 girls were picked up by relatives. Wow. This story affects me personally. And I will tell you why, based on a real story that happened to me when I was 15. My father and I did not have a great relationship, and longtime listeners to the show know this is true. My dad frequently worked 2 or 3 jobs. He had to commute. He had a 5-hour round-trip commute every day, from home to work, work to home. Many times when he got home, on a weekend or at the end of the day, he was just a touch cranky. More than just a touch. And so other people got the best of my father, and I got the worst. It's just the way it was. By the way, it was not the same for my siblings. I was the oldest, and I was the one who paid the price. My dad loved to drink beer. Lots of it. Way, way too much. And you have to understand, in the 60s, it was before all the drunk driving awareness we have now, all the public service announcements, all the tough laws. Let me tell you how it was when I was a little kid. My dad was like a lot of people back then, and I remember seeing it, so I know. My dad would get off of work. He worked at the New York Post newspaper, and the offices were located in Lower Manhattan. And he would get off work about 4:30, and he was in a carpool with, depending on what month or year it was, 3 or 4 other guys. So each one would drive once a week. When my dad would get out of work at 4:30, he'd pick up the other guys, and then he would stop off at a little bodega on the Bowery. You know the Bowery, it's like Skid Row in New York. He's on the Bowery, and he stops off at like a liquor store, bodega, picks up a couple of lottery tickets, and picks up a few 6-packs of good old Schaefer beer, which was, at the time, in the New York area, one of the cheapest beers around, and it was ubiquitous. This was my dad, by the way, can I tell you something? My dad loved Schaefer beer. How much did he love Schaefer beer? My dad, in his basement, he finished his basement. He had one of those unfinished basements that he finished. I think it's a very funny term, but he finished it. Cheap wood paneling, like 1/8 of an inch thick, and a spotlight, big red spotlight, and he built a bar. He's got a bar in the basement, and the bar was not just a bar, it was an altar to the gods of Schaefer beer. There was a Schaefer neon sign, a Schaefer clock that rotated above the bar. You see those old school clocks that's like a big lamp with a clock on it? One side's the clock, the other side it says Schaefer beer. And the thing rotates. So half the time you're looking at the time and half the time you're looking at the Schaefer beer logo. He had that in his basement. He had all kinds of Schaefer signage. And he took it a step further. Our second dog was named Schaefer. I couldn't make that up. My dad's dog was named after his favorite beer. Thank God it wasn't Ballantine. Schaefer. You ever lived, you hear your dad in the backyard going, "Come here, Schaefer! Schaefer, come here! Schaefer!" Yeah. So my dad used to get out of work at 4:30 from the New York Post, pick up the other guys in the carpool. They used to head over to a bodega on the Bowery and used to pick up at least a couple of sixers of Schaefer beer. And there was a period of time where Schaefer, I think, was one of the last beers, by the way, that had pop-top cans. That was a big feature. You can't imagine that now because every aluminum can has a pop-top. Just pop it open. But back in the 60s, there was still a lot of beers where you needed a can opener. My dad had a Schaefer beer can opener. And so whoever was sitting in the passenger seat, they were riding shotgun, and they had to man the can opener. You may find this hard to believe now with all the roadblocks and DUI checkpoints and all the ads about mothers against drunk driving and drunk driving attorneys who defend you if you have a DUI and all that stuff. My dad would have the 6-packs of Schaefer beer on the front seat with the guy riding shotgun who also manned the can opener. The guy in the front seat would be reaching into that bag from the bodega. He'd pull out a can of Schaefer. He would, like, pop open the can with the can opener. And he would hand the can out. So you got 4 or 5 guys in the car. They're all riding there with cans of Schaefer beer. In broad daylight. 4 or 5 guys, each with a big, gaudy-looking can of beer. And my dad had to drive about 55 miles to get home. And they're down in beers. And by the way, I'm not making this up. You couldn't make this up. In those days, people like my dad, when they would like drain a beer, they were done with it. If he didn't stick a couple of cigarette butts in the can, use the can as an ashtray, which he sometimes would, these guys would toss the empty cans out the window onto the Long Island Expressway. Literally, they'd just open it could be the middle of winter, it could be ice, snow, they didn't care. They would, the can, who knows where the can might fly? They would just open the window and toss the cans out the window. True story. Now, I was not in the carpool with my dad more than a couple of times. But I did see this behavior. And my dad did have a number of strange car accidents in which he was injured, which the car was, if not total, there was collision damage and stuff. Nobody ever dared suggest, hey, Dad, did you stop at the bodega before you headed home today? I mean, it's 18 degrees outside. The streets are a sheet of ice, and, I saw you down there on the Bowery picking up those Sixers. Did you do that today? Of course, all the evidence had already been tossed out on the Long Island Expressway. All the cans were gone. If the cops came along, they wouldn't see that. All true. So, one day, I was staying at my cousin's house. This is a 100% true story. I was staying at my cousin's house in Brooklyn, which I used to do in the summertime because I hated living in the suburbs where my parents lived. My dad did that 2.5-hour commute. I hated living there, and he worked so hard to pay for that house. He hated the fact that I hated living there. And so we were constantly at odds. And so one night, it was about 1:30 a.m., I am at my cousin's house in East Flatbush, Brooklyn. And the doorbell is ringing. And I'm kind of creeped, This is Flatbush. Who's ringing the doorbell at 1:30 a.m.? So, my cousin goes down, because he's the only thing close to an adult that's there to answer the door. He goes downstairs, answers the door, and it's my father wanting to see me at 1:30 a.m. So my cousin comes back upstairs to the room where we're watching TV. He says, your father is here. So I go downstairs to see him, and he is stinking drunk. He has been out putting it away all night long, and now that he's putting it away, he's decided he's pissed off at me for staying at my cousin's house. And he's decided he's had enough with me staying with my cousin, and so he tells me to get my things. It's 1:30 a.m. He tells me to get my things. I'm 14 or 15 years old. He tells me to get my things, pack up, you're coming home. And I'm like, I do not want to get into that car. My dad was not just having a few beers. My dad was S-faced. That's what he was. Yes, he was really, really bombed. Did not want to get into the car. And he was angry, and I could tell he was in a swinging mood. You know what I'm saying? That palm, that open palm is going to be swinging at any moment. So what I did was, I packed my things. I had no choice. He was there. Hello, what's taking you so long? Come on. People that type A personalities were cranky to begin with, and now they're drunk, and now they've decided they got a chip on their shoulder. Come on, what's taking you so long? God damn it, get down here. So I have no choice. Packed my things. Went downstairs. Say goodbye to my cousin.